All right. With this video, we're going to talk about creating your own custom content types. This is a blank corpus that I have just created, and you'll note that by default, when you create a corpus, it does create three different content types. These are somewhat generic in the sense that you could create and store documents and then upload images of those documents and potentially transcribe them if you want to. But so the first thing I'm actually going to do is to show you how to get rid of these default content types and then create your own. So what I'm going to do is go to the admin tab here, and we're going to scroll down. And you'll notice if we try to just go ahead and delete, for instance, the document content type, it lets us know that unfortunately the transcription project content type references document, so we can't just delete that. We'd first have to delete the transcription project, but again, if we try that, it says, unfortunately, the transcription content type is referencing that. So you may have to kind of go down the chain until you get to the content type that is not dependent on any others and delete that first. And you'll get this very stern warning. If you go ahead and click confirm, it has launched a job in the background. It shouldn't take very long to complete, but once it does, you'll probably get some message asking you to refresh your screen so that you see now the transcription content type is gone. So let's go back and let's just repeat this process to get rid of all of our content types. So now that's gone. And finally, we can delete the document content type. So now we have a completely blank corpus with no content types and therefore no content. So we're going to go back here into this admin tab, and we're going to say new content type. And just for simplicity's sake, we're going to create some very simple content types. We're going to create one called author, plural name, authors. Just go ahead and click save. Once you do that, you can expand this out and create fields for the author content type. We'll just say, full name. And notice I just typed that out and put a space in it. When I leave that field, it's going to do what's called slugification, right? Where it removes all special characters, including spaces, and replaces them with an underscore. Because this right here will actually be used behind the scenes in the code, right, to refer to this field name. And often in languages like Python, which Corpora is built on, variable names and etc. have to kind of adhere to this convention. So that's why that changes. But you can create a perfectly human readable label here. So we're going to call this full name. And let's just go ahead and leave that as a keyword type field, but you'll note that you have several options, and we'll try to play with a couple of those, but I'm just going to click create, and might as well put a birth date, and might as well make that a date. And yeah, for now, that'll do. Because again, this is just a very simple example. And of course, if you were actually creating a content type to represent authors, you would probably want to be a lot more thorough than that. And let's just create another content type here. Actually, what I'd like to do with this content type is use a cross-reference field to reference the author. So before we create that new content type, I'd actually like to just go ahead and save changes. So let's do that. When you save changes to your content type schema, it's going in the background and setting up the various tables and whatnot across the different databases to make sure that you can successfully store your authors. But let's go back and let's create a new content type called book. I'm going to refer to this as books in plural. And let's go ahead and add some fields here. Just call this title. Um, and let's call this one authors. Okay. Now I'm using the plural term authors because I want to be able to reference multiple authors at a time. So a couple of things there. First off, we're wanting to reference another content type as the value for this field, right? So when we drop down this type box for our field, if you want for a field's value to be actually another piece of content defined as a content type, then you can choose cross-reference as your type. You'll get a list of the different available content types. I think by default, it chooses document, even though we don't have document as a content type. So that's actually a bug that needs to be fixed. But regardless, we are going to choose author as our content type there. So the book will refer, the authors field, right, will refer to an instance of the author content type, all right? Now, because we want it to be able to refer to multiple authors, not just one, I'm going to check this multiple box. And what that basically means is that this field will be able to hold multiple values in the form of, a list, a sequential list of values, okay? So we're gonna click create there. And now that we've got our two content types set up, I'm going to click Save Changes to make sure that that book content type shows up. We'll give it just a second to finish setting up that content type. Great. And now we've got our two content types set up. And so really quickly, just to show how when you create your content types, it gives you the ability to then create instances of content according to that schema. We're going to scroll down to this kind of tabular representation of our content. Of course, there's nothing there right now, but let's go ahead and create an instance of the author content type. We're going to give our author a full name. We could I should have thought about this ahead of time, but let's just go ahead and say Zadie Smith. I do not know Zadie Smith's birthday off the top of my head. So she will be born on May 18th. And we should probably choose a different year. That's in the future. Let's go into the past. And sure. All right. Yeah, May 18th, 1976, which is probably completely wrong, and we're going to click Save. All right. Now, a couple of things here. Our content is saved, right? And so the value for these two different fields is there. I would say, though, that our label, right, is very generic. It's just telling us that this is an author and that this is their unique ID assigned to this sort of record or this piece of content. You can also see the same ID referenced here in the URL that goes to this specific piece of content. But we would like maybe to have a slightly more meaningful label here. So what I'm going to do is show you how to change the label for all of your content types. So notice here in our tabular representation, we have an author. So we're going to go to the admin tab here, and we're going to go into author, but we're going to want to edit the label template. So this is the template that is used to generate a label for every piece of content belonging to this content type. And notice what you have here is the word author, a space, and then this is a convention that allows you to refer to any field of your content type and to kind of put it in as the label. So what we're actually going to do is just delete this word author in the space. And instead of the ID, we're going to use that field we created called full_name. All right, and so now the label for all of our authors is just going to have, it's just going to use their full name as the label. So we're going to save that. Just because we have made a change to that template does not mean that we have saved our work yet. We will actually need to click that Save Changes button. But while we're at it, we might as well fix the label as well for our book. So let's do that. We're just going to get rid of that, and we're going to use book.title. Now, this templating system, it's called the Jinja 2 templating system. You can read up on all the different things you can kind of use in this template. You can use if statements, you can use lists that, you know, like iterating over values and doing things with them in order to construct your label. So there's all kinds of complicated ways you could do this, but for now, we're just going to stick with using the value for the full name field as the label for our authors, and the value for the title as the label for our books. So now that we've made those changes, let's go ahead and save them. We get this familiar message again, and notice that our author has disappeared, okay? So if you see that after changing your content types, don't be alarmed. What's actually happening is it's going through and re-indexing that content, so that once it's finished that re-indexing, if you click refresh, you should now see your content again. And if we were to visit this piece of content, now instead of that ugly label that said author and a space and then the author's ID, we get this nice label that is just the value of the full name field, okay? Now, let's go ahead and create a book really quickly. We'll just call this On Beauty as the title of one of Zadie Smith's books. And because this is a multi-valued field, you're given the opportunity to add multiple values, right? So I just click the add button to give us one slot to add a value here. I'm going to click select, and we're just going to choose Zadie Smith. Now, if there were a long list of authors to choose from, it would give you the option to either paginate through all the different pages of authors, or you can, you know, search for an author's by their label. And when you type that in, you'll just want to hit enter when you're done typing, and that should filter that list for you. But for now, we're just going to click on Zadie Smith. So her name now appears as the value for our author, and we're going to click save. Okay, and notice now we have this nice label for our book based off of the value of the title field. And among our authors, we have listed Zadie Smith. And this is actually a link, and if you click on it, it will open a new tab and take you to that author that you created and that you are now referencing via this multi-valued field. Okay, that was a brief rundown on how to create content types and how in turn to then change the labels for your content types and also create some content.